hanging tree.
Okay, wow. There's this pretty pivotal song in the Hunger Games series called The Hanging Tree. It's kind of introduced as like a folk tune that's passed down from generation to generation in District 12. And it's actually been banned by the Capitol, probably because the song calls to light the Capitol's oppression of District 12 as well as all the other districts. But eventually the song is kind of transformed into this anthem of the uprising against the Capitol. The Hunger Games has a prequel movie coming out in November called The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. And I guess in this prequel, we kind of get to see the origin of this song. The movie stars Rachel Zegler as Lucy Gray, who is from District 12 and competes in one of the very first Hunger Games. Rachel Zegler is someone who should probably be a way bigger star than she is. She won a Golden Globe for her role in West Side Story, but then it just so turns out that that was the year that the Golden Globes canceled their televised ceremony. Then she got to star in the sequel to Shazam, which kind of just happened to coincide with this dramatic drop-off that we've seen in the success of comic book movies over the last couple of years. And now she has this starring role in the Hunger Games prequel, but it just so happens that there's an actors strike going on right now, so she can't even promote it. Anyway, she's an incredible singer. Anyone who's heard the West Side Story soundtrack knows this. And I just saw that they released her version of The Hanging Tree from The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. So yeah, let's check it out.
Are you coming to the tree where they strung up a man? They say murdered 3. Strange things did happen here. No stranger would it be if we met up at midnight in the hanging tree.
Okay, wow. She's got such great vocal control. She has really great command of the tempo. It's obviously slowed down, but she's like adding in extra space and it sounds just very deliberate. She's singing with a lot of restraint, but you can really hear the kind of sense of repressed anger coming through, especially in the way she holds that last note there. And overall, I just really love how naturalistic this sounds. I think it's really common in huge musical blockbusters these days to like overproduce the vocals, and they're really going in the opposite direction here. The filmmakers clearly trust her great voice and musical intuition and are just letting that shine without it needing to be masked by any distracting post-production. And this is also kind of a contrast to the way she sings in West Side Story. It makes sense because West Side Story is very much kind of a stage-to-screen adaptation. It's a lot more theatrical, and the way that the actors would be singing in that kind of context would be a lot more like outwardly projecting, whereas here it's a lot more realistic and intimate.
Are you coming to the tree where the dead man called out for his love to flee? Strange things did happen here. No stranger would it be if we met up at midnight in the hanging tree.
Yeah, she's really imbuing this song with just so many of these interesting inflections, the slides, the way she like put an accent on a certain note, but then very quickly pull back. It just makes it sound very raw and spontaneous. Like there's a sense that this is really, really personal to her. And just listening to the lyrics, I guess this song is kind of an homage to Strange Fruit, which is a devastating song by Billie Holiday about lynchings of Black people in the American South. Of course, The Hanging Tree is about like the hanging of the oppressed people, in this case of District 12, by the institutional power, in this case, the Capitol. And she sings strange things could happen here, which is just that kind of like literal reference to Strange Fruit.
Are you coming to the tree where I told you to run so we'd both be free? Strange things did happen here. No stranger would it be if we met up at midnight in the hanging tree.
Yeah, I think musically this song reminds me a lot of Wayfaring Stranger, especially the Johnny Cash version, which has this very similar, simple guitar part. It also has a similar chord progression in a minor key and a very bittersweet sounding melody.
I'm just a poor wayfaring stranger.
The music for this song was actually written by a couple of members of the band, the Lumineers, and I'm sure they were heavily inspired by a lot of these old folk tunes, like Wayfaring Stranger. And I think there's a lot of implied history that comes with this simplicity. If a song is more simple and easier to remember, then it's going to be a lot easier for people to pass down from generation to generation. And as that song is passed down over time, it's just naturally going to lose some of the extra ornaments and get kind of like stripped down to its bare bones. I think that's something that makes this song a really effective piece of world building in the original Hunger Games series. The fact that there is this song that's been passed down throughout the people of District 12 kind of makes you a little bit curious about the history and creates the opportunities for interesting prequel stories like this one. And with prequels, there's always a little bit of this risk of making the world too small. I think studios often take this approach to prequel storytelling where they try to pack in as much fan service and direct references to the original material as possible, obviously to bring people to theaters, but then also to provide more of this like immediate surface level payoff. But what that can also do is end up making the world feel smaller and less interesting, especially if those references or the origin stories that are presented end up coming down to coincidence or storylines that aren't super impactful. So that's just a long way of saying that I'm really hoping that The Hanging Tree gets an origin story that carries the emotional weight that it deserves and maintains some of that curiosity about the history of this world.
Are you coming to the tree where a necklace of rope side by side with me? Strange things did happen here. No stranger would it be if we met up at midnight in the hanging tree.
Wow, okay, yeah. Ending the song again with this incredibly stripped back instrumental. It's almost a cappella. And again, you really just hear the way that she's spacing things out and adding extra time between the phrases and making it sound really deliberate and heavy. I mentioned before that I really love when the last verse of a song kind of subverts the meaning of the song or just adds an extra dimension to the song that wasn't there before. Earlier in the song, she sings to her lover to run to the hanging tree so they can be free. Presumably this is like a rendezvous point where they can make their escape. And in the last verse here, she sings about hanging side by side from the hanging tree. So that's just a way of kind of ending the song on a very hopeless note. But also an interesting way of like planting a seed for the song to be transformed into an anthem for like martyrdom in the future. Yeah, I'll be honest, I wasn't really paying too much attention to the rollout of this film, but hearing this song has definitely got me interested in seeing it, seeing what they do with the origin of the song, and I'm also looking forward to hearing what other songs Rachel Zegler sings in it. Turns out her character is actually part of a band in the film, and I saw this kind of like behind the scenes feature pop up on YouTube yesterday where the director was just talking about how there's actually a lot of music in this movie, which I guess makes sense because it is called The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. So yeah, looking forward to listening to all of that. And of course, Rachel Zegler was also cast as Snow White in the upcoming Disney live action remake, which I think comes out next year. So yeah, looking forward to hearing more of her amazing voice on that as well. Thanks for checking out the song with me, and I'll see you next time. May the odds be...